Do you think women would do better if the situation was reversed and the women were stripped of their kids, not allowed to see their kids, forced to pay money they can't possibly earn to pay the father to take care of the kids? Do you think they would deal with it better?
I'm not sure they do. There are cases like that. It's not just fathers. Mothers as well do go through this. They do lose their children. They're not as often incarcerated. They're not as often forced to pay exorbitant child support. But it does happen. And they don't seem to fare much better than the men do. I don't know that the suicide rate is high. I can't say for sure. But it happens. It's not really a matter of gender bias. So this is the misconception. We think of this as gender bias.
Oh, it's not gender bias.
Unfair estimate. I don't think gender bias really describes what is going on here. I think it's a system of plundering fathers. I think they would just as soon plunder mothers if they had the opportunity to do it.
If the mothers had the money.
That's right. And if the fathers were more prone to divorce. In fact, in many instances, the genders are reversed, generally when the father has some political connections. If the father's a public figure, if he's got connections with the judiciary, if he's a judge or a lawyer or a movie star or a politician, then he can do it to the mother. He can take the children away. There's a New Jersey fathers' rights groups, and many fathers' rights groups also deal with non-custodial mothers. The group in New Jersey claims that half of the non-custodial mothers that come to them seeking help have ex-husbands who are connected in some way with the judiciary.
So who's the really evil power in the government here? The divorce attorneys, the judges, the Bar Association? Who's really the bad guy in this whole situation?
Well, the frightening thing about this is that it's very much a bureaucratic machine. It's all of those people that you've mentioned, and they are interdependent on one another. No single individual could stop it if they wanted to. The judge sits at the center of the machine. The judge is what one activist I know calls the ringmaster of a circus. He cues in the various performers. He passes out patronage to the various actors. But the judge is not really in control of the situation. The judge can be unseated by the bar associations. If he fails to reward the lawyers, to funnel money into the pockets of the lawyers,
really?
he can be unseated by the bar associations. He or she can be unseated by feminist groups. The bar associations in some ways are in control of the judge. They are the ones who dominate the commissions that determine judicial appointments and judicial promotions. I believe that organizations of psychologists and other expert witnesses also play a role in this, from what I've seen. Feminist groups, also women's groups, also tend to be involved in this as well. So it's heavily bureaucratic. It's similar to what Václav Havel once said about the communist system in Eastern Europe. No single individual is in control of it. No single individual could stop it, even if he or she wanted to. It's a kind of bureaucratic momentum, almost a bureaucratic terror.
So what would you propose as a solution? How do we undo the damage the divorce machine has created for children, for fathers, for mothers? Would you advocate a 50% placement of children where neither one pays the other one any child support? Because then you eliminate all the DA people that are hired to track people and harass people, and just say the preponderance evidence being even on both sides. They both get 50% custody of the child, and nobody pays anyone child. You just pay their bills when you've got them for your 2 weeks or your 6 months of the year.
I think that changes like that in the divorce law have some merit, and I certainly would say that they're a step in the right direction. From my experience, what I've seen, changes in divorce law, like that custody law, are often not enforced. Judges have a way of doing what they want to do anyway, seeing to their clients and passing out patronage. And they usually find ways of avoiding what's in the law. There's a larger problem here, which I think needs to be addressed, and that is that we have created a massive politics in this country of children. We have created huge numbers of people who have a vested interest in taking children away from their parents. And that's the beginning, that's the first step. None of these people, the judges, the lawyers, the psychologists, the social workers, none of these people would have a reason for existing until the children are taken away from their parents. And usually that begins with the removal from the father. So the basic principle we need to return to, and this is what most people think is the law, erroneously, that no child should ever be taken away from a parent who has not done something wrong legally or criminally, civilly or criminally, or at a minimum agreed to a divorce or separation. If a parent agrees to a divorce, then the law has to step in at some point. If the parent commits some crime or some civil infraction, such as infidelity, that too is a grounds for the state to intervene in some way. But until the parent crosses that line, then the state has no jurisdiction over that parent. The parent-child relationship should be inviolable until the parent does something wrong or agrees to a rupture in the marriage. And if we return to that principle, we would essentially undermine the rationale for most of the divorce industry.
Now, this libertarian in Michigan, Tim O'Brien is his name, I think?
That's right.
What was his proposal to get to a solution?
He seems to have advocated something like what I am advocating in the Detroit News. He's the head of the Michigan Libertarian Party. He suggested that we should have a divorce law, custody law, where if one parent walks away from a marriage without legal grounds, simply by whim, then that parent forfeits the privileges of the marriage. That parent loses the children, the home, the right to child support, and so forth. In other words, if a parent wishes to leave a marriage without recognized legal grounds, then that parent can do so. But
Most people
must
think
do
that's
so
the
alone.
law now,
Most people assume that's the law.
and it's not.
And it's not the law. No.
It's
If
not
anything-
what happens in family court, is
No.
it?
And the conflicts of interest in the family courts are such that the parent that leaves gets the reward. The courts reward the parent that leaves the family because they are trying to encourage divorce. This sounds cynical, but this is in fact what's happening. The courts are effectively offering incentives, almost bribes, to divorcing parents, usually but not always mothers. The courts are effectively saying, look, if you file for divorce, you can have your children, you can take your husband's income, you can take his future earnings, you can take his home, you can have him, if he raises any objection, you can have him jailed without trial. And you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If you file for divorce, you get everything, we'll take our cut, and if he raises any objection, we can throw him in the pokey. This is the astounding, the unbelievable situation of what is going on in these courts.
How many millions of dads have been unfairly treated in the system, would you estimate?
We don't know. These figures are not kept or they're not published. We know
Nobody
there's-
publishes these figures?
No. We know that about 80% of divorces are unilateral, are over the objection of one parent. We know that there are 1.5 million divorces every year in America, about 3/5 of which have involve children. So there's about 1 million children a year are the victims of divorce. 80% of those are unilateral. Most of those are filed by the mother. We know that the hope of getting children is the main incentive for filing for divorce. So based on those figures, I would estimate that about 700,000 parents every year are involuntarily divorced and lose their children through no fault of their own.
So in 10 years, that means it'd be like 10 million dads that lost their children and got run over roughshod in the family court.
Right. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, there seem to be, they claim, about 17 million cases at the moment of non-custodial parents for child support enforcement. So roughly between 15 and 20 million non-custodial
It's
parents.
got to take a small army to track those people down and keep making them pay money and up the ante and keep raising the child support and all that.
Absolutely. There's in this country right now, there are 60,000 plainclothes agents enforcing child support.
60,000 people?
60,000 agents in America. That's about 13 times the number of agents in the Drug Enforcement Administration worldwide. In other words, there are about 13 times as many agents tracking parents, fathers, as there are tracking drug dealers in the entire world.
That's incredible.
It is
What?
astounding. These are levels and child support, many of these agents, they're effectively bureaucratic police. They're very similar to the secret police of the communist totalitarian societies. Their main purpose is not law enforcement so much as information gathering. They gather information on people, they attend public meetings, they go to political demonstrations. It's very much like the secret police of the communist societies.
Secret police. The secret police of the communist society. Is that what we've got? 60,000 secret police tracking down non-custodial parents, making them criminals. I don't know what you think, but I think we've lost control of our government in this area too. And it's scary to think that we've got that many more people tracking down dads than we've got tracking down hardened Colombian criminals that would shoot us to sell another pound of cocaine on the street and get away with it. Professor Baskerville, I want to thank you for being with me here on Second Thought.
Thank you. It's been good to be here.
I appreciate that. And you've got another scoop from one of the leading experts in the United States on the criminalization of fathers and some mothers and how the divorce industry is destroying 1 million children a year, all in the name of protecting them. I think we need to do something about this, and I think Professor Baskerville brought up a good solution. Whoever leaves the home nest loses the children and loses his right to the house. They can go on their whim, whatever their whim is. But the home stays with the parent that wants to keep the marriage. Who leaves the marriage, who wants to leave the marriage, loses the kids in the house. I think that would discourage divorce, get rid of the divorce industry. But wait a minute, can I go back to you one more question? Isn't this going to make the lawyers that practice divorce cases really angry if this idea got known?
Well, this would put a lot of people out of work, yes. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it would almost certainly have an impact of reducing the divorce rate dramatically.
That'd be good.
Most people think it would be good.
Well, Professor Vasquez, I want to thank you again for being with me here all the way to the West Coast in California on Second Thought. This is William Wagner saying thanks for being with us on this episode and on this particular clip. And now we'll go back to our regular show.